sort of that rhetoric that's going out there. I understand there's the divisiveness in society today, and it's unfortunate. I think a lot of people have their opinions, but they're not just willing to engage in, a constructive debate. It seems like it's either right or wrong, left or right. There's not much in the middle anymore, which is kind of sad. As a journalist, I was always taught to be fair, unbiased, and, as people, journalists are people. You have your own opinions, but, you're not supposed to let that seep into the reporting. Our job is to report both sides, opinions that are out there, and then, you let your viewers form their own opinions off that. That's how it's supposed to be. I don't feel like it's that way in all media, or people have options to get their news. So whether it's on TV, the internet, I think it's more incumbent upon viewers now to know where they're getting their information from, and take that either with a grain of salt or use that as a method to form their own opinion.
Speaking on those ways to get different forms of news, you obviously have YouTube, you have podcasts. The landscape has definitely changed since you've been in the industry. What are your thoughts on those alternative ways, and does any of that stuff interest you in maybe, doing freelance stuff, producing your own kind of content, or do you kind of look down at that and I'm at the pinnacle and this is where it's at?
Oh, I certainly don't look down on it. I think it's great. You obviously don't need a degree to be a journalist. But I also think that people just need to understand where they're getting their news from, and, podcasts and, even 24-hour cable sources, even as like mainstream, what I would call us, ABC News, you shouldn't just take one opinion. You should, I think, listen to different voices and get it from YouTube, get it from podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, and then form your opinion and your leanings. But I think you just need to listen to all the voices that are out there, and not just, what might be your viewpoint.
As someone who went to college and is a journalism major, how does it make you feel, or what are your thoughts on, the fact that either me or Richie could start a news site tomorrow and we don't need any kind of credentials and we can kind of just put up whatever?
Oh, I think it's great that people get their viewpoints out there.
All right.
But, and like, I hate to repeat, but it's, again, I think just people need to hear from different voices. And in this day and age, I think people are just listening to people with their own viewpoint.
Speaking of those different voices and different sources to get your news from, where does Jamie Pschorr get her news from? Where does she look to besides where you work?
Well, in town, there's I watch all the different stations here, see what they're doing. 'Cause there's, your competition. You got to know what's going on. We also have the newspaper, the Philadelphia Inquirer. And then I also do watch, because we are local news, I do work for ABC News, but the network, and I think people sometimes confuse that, is actually different than the local news station. So I watch the different networks, and I guess occasionally, because I try to heed my own advice and watch different viewpoints, I try to tap into some of those cable news, but sometimes the pundits and stuff they have on get a little too much for me. So, between watching different stations and just reading papers and stuff online.
So
at the end of the day, also, too, I sometimes when I go home, I try to turn off the news. I always am trying to keep an ear to know what's going on because that's my job. But I also, because I'm at the station for 10 hours a day, I come home and I watch, Access Hollywood and Jeopardy and whatever other stupid entertainment might be on.
The Big Bang Theory?
Wow, I didn't watch that. My parents did.
Exactly. They all did. When you go in the morning, are you scouring the news looking for points of interest, or do they have that prepared for you? Like, these are X, Y, and Z is what needs to be covered tonight.
Oh no, we're all between producers, reporters, our assignment desk, scouring. Local stuff. There's several different papers too with the suburbs and stuff. Maybe something that we might have missed that a different station had that we might jump on. And then also because there are the different mediums now. There are like the sort of the local papers like the Patch and things like that are more hyper local. Stories we might not have heard of, but. So yeah, everyone's sort of scouring everywhere and pitching stories. We have a specific email that we call Story Pitch that we email our story ideas into, and then we also discuss that in our morning meetings.
And is there a breakdown locally versus nationally or worldwide? How much needs to be covered for each of those three topics, or does it just depend on the day and what's going on in the world?
Yes, it depends on the day and what's going on. But typically my show, nationally, international, local stuff all goes in that sort of 4 p.m. to 6 o'clock hour, 2 hours. That's sprinkled throughout. Each show has sort of a different flavor where they have, newsy stories, the sort of the talker, funny stories, maybe funny videos, goes in a certain half hour. My show specifically, the 6 o'clock half hour, is mainly local news, all local news, unless there's some big national or international story happening, like unfortunately recently with the shootings, we did cover that. But the 6 o'clock half hour is a local because then we hit the network world news right after my show.
And is that coming from a different location?
Yes, that's the network, and that's David Muir, who does. He anchors the show from New York.
Okay. Is the 6 o'clock time spot the it spot for Philadelphia?
It's a lot of people coming home from work and school. So, over the 2.5 hours, there are different people coming home at different hours. I would like to say that most people, it used to be appointment television for 6 o'clock, but there are people that, obviously they can get their news anytime, anywhere now. So it's not necessarily sit down and watch the news, but for certain here in Philadelphia, they like to turn to us. And actually there's been 2 separate months over the last 2 years where my 6 p.m. show has been the number one rated in the country, even over New York, and we had more viewers.
Boom. Did you get a medal or award or anything? They give you a certificate?
No, just a slap on the back.
That's it?
Good job.
Just a high five from Jim?
Yeah. No, Jim and I high five.
Okay.
We have our bosses that congratulate us. Yep.
Speaking of the national news, is that a goal to go and produce for the national news?
No, I would say at one point it was. I really like Philadelphia right now. I love my job where I'm at. There's hopefully maybe a little movement within my station. Maybe one day I would love to be an executive producer, which would be sort of one step up from where I am and sort of be middle management and get to oversee a couple shows at a time. But for right now, I bought a house here almost 3 years ago. It's easy. It's close to the family, just over the bridge. I get to the beach on the weekends in the summer. So right now, I never say never in different things in life, but at this point, no. I'm and I hate to. I don't want it to be. I'm comfortable where I'm at, but I do love where I'm at.
How long have you been in Philadelphia producing there?
Coming up this September will be 9 years. It will be the longest place I've ever lived outside of Tom's River.
being there for 9 years, would you say, that executive producer position is what keeps you motivated at this point? Or what keeps you motivated on those days where, you might not be firing on all cylinders 9 years later?
Actually, I mean, maybe not even the job. I just love the city, the people I've met. And sometimes when work's not cutting it, I just love the community I've made outside of work.
Speaking of that community, that kind of leads right into this next topic or subject. You're a big runner, kind of flows through our blood, but you're also very, very involved with the November Project. Can you fill people in about what the November Project is and what that does and what kind of community environment that's like?
Sure. Yeah, the November Project is a free workout community that's now in 50 cities worldwide. Even there in Denver. You guys need to check that out.
I've been meaning to. I've been slacking, though. I have a list of things I want to check out, but that's definitely seems like something that would probably be up my alley or our alley.
Yeah, so November Project is here in Philadelphia. We meet 2 days a week, Wednesdays and Fridays. In some cities, it's 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesdays, we meet at the Art Museum steps, and we sort of do different workouts that incorporate the steps and, body weight, kind of, I guess, boot camp kind of stuff, just to make it a generic sort of thing. But it's always different. And
are there burpees involved?
Usually.
Good.
Typically, yep. We have a workout sometimes, usually at the end of workouts, we have something that's called a burnout. So it's either, sprinting the steps or sometimes that entails 6 minutes of burpees.
Nice. That's my wheelhouse right there.
But the best thing about November Project is that it's all abilities, it's all ages, and typically because it's in a confined space, you're all doing the same workout, but at your own speed, at your own ability, and so it's very welcoming, and even though some people, it takes them a little while to get used to, it's a very welcoming group. People like to hug, so if you like sweaty hugs, if you don't, you can just give a high five. But
fist bumps,
but
elbows,
yeah,
elbows.
Back in Boston. What's that?
We do elbow bumps.
You can do that too. Give a wink or whatever you want. But yeah, it's certainly for me, because I am in a newsroom 10 hours a day. For me, and because it started here in Philadelphia back in 2014. I think it was in January. I didn't start with the group until May. But it opened a whole community to me that I would never have, been a part of, because it is hard to make friends, I think, as an adult sometimes, especially when you're, so into work and in a confined space. So this has opened up the whole running community. And like I said, it's all ages, all abilities, people from all different professions that, I probably would have never met if it hadn't been for November Project.
How many people are in the Philadelphia group? Roughly.
Well, we are a group that works out, all year long. They say they're weatherproof. But we do definitely have more numbers in the summer months. Well, because we also, a lot of the teachers who don't get to make it during the other months of the year come and join us. But yeah, there's several hundred at the workouts.
And is that the sort of thing where, like here in Denver, Jimmy and I could just show up? We don't have to sign up or anything?
Yep, no, it's free. That's
And
the best part of it.
where did the group originate, and where did the name come from?
It started in Boston, I believe in 2011, and it was started by two former collegiate rowers from Northeastern, Brogan Graham and Boyan Mandarek. and they were collegiate rowers and now finished with college.